Jeff Payton. Jeff Payton is a member of the Corps of Cadets. He's now Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Payton, and he flew as an F-15 fighter pilot in Desert Storm some years back. On the first night of that directive, something very powerful happened to him. As he was traveling, he tells this following story. His mission that particular night of the onslaught of Desert Storm was to escort a large formation of fighters in a bombing of a chemical weapons plant in northern Iraq. The date for this particular Desert Storm mission was chosen because of the absence of moonlight and the clouds and visibility that would help them in the attacking of their allied fighters and from them not being detected by enemy defenses. So they took off, and flying in total darkness, all of the pilots became completely dependent upon their instruments in this attack. And shortly after crossing into Iraq, Colonel Payton's jet was locked onto by an Iraqi surface-to-air missile radar. He violently went through the procedures that he had been taught and maneuvers to maneuver his aircraft to break the radar's lock on him and his plane. His maneuvers were successful, and he broke the lock, but it created a new problem. The radical movements in the dark threw off the balance in his inner ear, which is what happens when a person gets vertigo and excessively dizzy, causing him to instantly become disorientated in flight. His mind was telling him his plane was in a right turn climb. But when he looked down and checked the instruments, they indicated that he was in a 60-degree dive headed towards the desert ground. He was sure he was in a climb instead of a dive, and something had happened to his instruments. His mind was screaming at him to lower the nose of his F-15 and to halt the climb that he felt in his body and in his mind. While his mind commanded him to correct the plane in one direction, his instruments still all indicated that he was to do the opposite. Because he was flying in total darkness, he had to decide quickly whether to trust his mind or trust the plane. His life depended on making the correct choice in seconds. Even though it took everything within him to overcome what his mind was telling him, he decided to follow protocol, and he trusted his instruments and the plane. He rolled the wings level, and he immediately gave throttle and pulled his F-15 upward, which drew 7 times the force of gravity, pulling the aircraft out of its incredible dive. It only took a few moments to realize that he had indeed made the right decision. If he had lowered the nose of his jet like his mind had been telling him, he would have crashed. Trusting his instruments saved his life. Immediately, he looked down at his altimeter, which told him the elevation of his aircraft. He had narrowly escaped colliding into one of the large mountains of Iraq by just 2,000 feet. Although he had made the correct decision by trusting his instrument, he realized if he would have delayed just 3 to 4 more seconds, his plane would have hit the side of that mountain in the middle of Iraq. You see, God will guide the instruments inside your heart through the direction of His Spirit, even though your mind may be telling you just the opposite. Did you grab that? Even though your mind may be telling you just